Hey guys, there we go. Finally, not really. We've done that before, stepping into 3D with Godot. But I actually want to see how other people are kind of explaining the entire workflow of getting into 3D because we didn't do that really. Like I did a few bits in there. But yeah, so let's actually see the setup here. Camera. Oh, we're missing the light. Looks like we're good. Yeah, so what is the plan for tonight? Honestly, that's going to be looking at this entire tutorial on how to get started with 3D because I think there's going to be a lot of very interesting things in there. And at the same time, we'll see how we can. Wait a second, I'm lost. Godot projects, there we go. Then we'll see eventually how we can use like the typical Blender workflow to recreate simple 3D CD like game. Hi Fluffy, are you ready to get flooded in tons of infos? So anyway, project, this is gonna be 3D, let's go with tapping into 3D. So what we're gonna do is definitely go through this Brachis video. We're gonna see everything he shares in there. No Euclidean physics, no, get lost. There's no way. Unless we actually plan to make a Cthulhu game, which is a plan. So, gonna leave this, not really mobile, let's go forward plus. Yeah, I know you're sad, but how it is. So anyway, we have this Brachii video here, and I'm not really a linear kind of guy, so we're gonna jump through chapters, definitely. So first, I want to see what those good and bad news are. Technically, I guess that the sound should be fine. And how am I doing? Well, actually, very fine. Like, it's quite exciting to open new venues for making games. Like, I can see that it is also going to be like, oh, we can make games and this is gonna take 6 months. Let's go. So that's kind of daunting in a way. But yeah, what about you? How are you doing? So in the meantime, we're going to listen to this good news. So I'm gonna track off this sound here.
Pretty smooth. First, the good news.
Oh
Godot
yeah.
is built in such a way that most of the concepts you learn when making a 2D game directly apply to 3D. This is especially true for the functionality part of
And
the
how it
game.
are you?
Many of the nodes that you might have used so far actually have a direct 3D version that works in pretty much the same way. So instead of using Node 2D, we simply use Node 3D instead. The same is true for area, collision shape, static body, character body, camera, raycast, audio stream player, and so on. Most of the properties on these nodes are pretty similar, and other nodes like timer and animation player don't even have a 3D equivalent. They just work the exact same way as in 2D. And this actually applies to programming as well. Detecting if a raycast 3D is hitting something is done using the isColliding function, just like in 2D. And as usual, you can move a node 3D by modifying the position. Of course, positions now have a third component that can be modified, the Z-axis, but otherwise the procedure is the same. And then the bad news.
Guys, so far it's actually nothing really surprising here. Did you actually delete your message? I just saw something coming and disappear. But yeah. Yeah, being tired is part of life, sadly. So far what we know is, what he shared with this good news is that Godot functions in a very smart logic in a sense that whenever you deal with 2D, 3D, it's kind of the same logic, so that's cool. French writer and philosopher. I would expect that you made a mistake in the name, but I'm not sure about that. I mean, that's possible, that's his name, but I would expect the last letter to be a U. And eventually I heard about him. I mean, Moreau's common last name, but Moreau not at all. And doesn't checks out. So what's the bad news?
Features the same. And then the bad news. The bad news is that while Godot tries its best to ease this transition, the world of 3D graphics is vast and complicated. While 2D games work by drawing sprites, in other words,
There it is. Who's that? Yeah, no. Yeah, let's see.
words flat images onto the screen, 3D games combine a lot of different asset data, such as meshes, textures, character rigs, and animations, with the in-engine rendering tools such as shaders,
Oh
lighting,
yay, shaders!
particle simulations, and post-processing effects. The pipeline for this can quickly become pretty complicated, and it's definitely an area where I see a lot of misunderstandings. But fear not, this video should clear up a lot of the confusion and teach you how you can approach this with as much complexity as you'd like. Creating aesthetically pleasing 3D scenes.
Okay, so this right here is like definitely the kind of 3D modeling I would be aiming for.
Doesn't have to be rocket science, and we can often rely on the ease of use of Godot
To start with, like
I've
that's
split
really
this video
brilliant.
up into two sections. First, we'll look at functionality, how we can design and prototype 3D games in Godot. Then, we'll dive into graphics. We'll get a good overview of the many terms thrown around when working with 3D assets. We'll nerd out on workflows and how to best use these assets in Godot.
Okay, so this is actually one of the most important things. How exactly can you make a workflow which allows you to create stuff in Blender and import them in Godot? That's going to be very
and finally,
important.
We'll learn how to render them beautifully in the engine.
Then we don't care that it's beautiful. Reki?
Serve as an overview, not a follow along, so lean back, grab your favorite snack, and let's figure this out. But
I don't think
first, this video is sponsored by Zenma.
But that we don't care. Okay, so 3D space, I guess that's just looking about what we have in there. I briefly looked about that before. Yeah, so we have objects. Oh, maybe he talks about the transform. That could be interesting to learn about. Hear about that. We speak about transform.
Many assets that you find online will be scaled to fit this.
I'm messing already. No.
This box here is currently 1 meter on all sides. And if we look at the transform, we can see that all of the position data is in meters. And
got
we
a phone.
Adjust this here, or we can use the gizmos just like in 2D. We can switch between select, move, rotate, and scale, or use Q, W, E, and R. Here we can move the node on different axes using the arrows, rotate using the arcs, and scale using the squares. To scale uniformly, simply click and drag outside the gizmos. Holding down Control while translating toggle snapping. And pressing this box here, or T on the keyboard, will switch to local mode. In local mode, the gizmos follow the orientation of the node, and in global mode...
that's interesting.
A quick tip is that you can actually bind these manipulations to...
Phones ain't snack. Depends. Could be. So yeah, great boxing.
And a very common way to do this is by using a technique called...
The great boxing thing, I think, could be like the starting point to do something. And here is just using CSG block. If you don't grab your snack, it doesn't work. You're really gonna make me go grab a snack? Ugh. For real. Great. There we have something, which is it's actually invisible because of the... There we are. So I'm not gonna eat it right now because I absolutely couldn't care about eating that. I have no idea why I purchased that. But I have it. You heard it? It's on my desk now.
Simple shapes to lay out a rough draft of your level. This way you can make sure the level works well before
So
getting
eventually
bogged
we
down in
could try to do that right now. Like gray boxing something. You just need to grab it. I have it. Like, can I put it somewhere? Because honestly I need my two hands for whatever I'm doing right now. We're gonna create a world scene because we are very inspired. There we go. So CSG, right? Box mesh polygons. So technically for the ground we could use a mesh, right? Like a plane. Not a placeholder. Ah. Now we have box. We don't have plane. Okay, so let's actually not make a mesh here. Just trade a box. And let's see. It's probably a bad idea to use scaling like this. We probably want to use like this size here. And here we have ground. You like my ground? Beautiful, right? You remember having watched this video before? Even downloading Blender? That was a good watch. Yeah, I looked a bit of it, and it seems like there's a lot of interesting information regarding the workflow, the Godot Blender workflow, which is pretty cool. So I don't know. What if like we kind of make a... Can I change the color? Material. Yeah. The Beto. So this ground's gonna be... Where is it? Oh, it's because of the selection. Okay, so we're gonna have the something around grayish to represent the sidewalks, sort of. Not really. Wait a second. And here, let's say that for a reason I want a road. So there's a way to make. I think that. So let's actually look the video because he explains that.
And this is one of the things that Godot makes very easy with its built-in CSG nodes. CSG stands for constructive cell geometry and allows you to quickly make levels and props by combining
Yeah, this. So he has one under the first one.
Shapes. And in the end, you can even export your graybox scene and bring it into a 3D modeling program such as Blender to use as a base. So let's try it out. When prototyping, I almost always work with snapping enabled. So at the top here, we can enable snapping or press Y, and we can configure the snap under transform, configure snap. I'll set this to 0.1, 10 degrees, and 10% scale. Now we can add a new node and search for CSG. And as you can see, there are different ones in here. I'm going to start with a box, and here we can simply click and drag on the handlebar.
Snapping, okay. Here's snipe. Oh.
To Y. Work with snapping enabled. So at the top here, we can enable snapping or press Y, and we can configure the snap under transform, configure snap. I'll set this to 0.1, 10 degrees, and 10% scale.
So I kind of see why. Oh yeah, why not? Don't bother with colors just yet. No, I mean the colors. Honestly, I don't mean to create the colors for the final result. It's just because I'm going to use something very precise. So using the color just to visualize where is what could be interesting, right? Like if I go add a new CSG box here. Let's say I want same thing, like actually it's large enough for a road, or it could be like 1.5. No. Maybe 2. Actually 2 or 3 could be nice. No, 2 is okay. Okay. And this here, just this one. I basically want to move it up. What is the precise... Like, if I want to make a precise move... Okay, wait a second. Here I'm snapping, right? By using control. Could be something around this. Don't necessarily need. And there we go. Something around this. And now I just like, you know, want to remove that from the first block. So show us.
Now we can add a new node and search for CSG. And as you can see, there are different ones in here. I'm going to start with a box. And here we can simply click and drag on the handlebars to scale it. If I hold down Alt, it's going to mirror on both sides. And a nice thing about this is that we don't need to add collision separately. We simply go to the right here and enable use.
Yeah, so indeed, he's
And
not
now
using scaling, it's changing the size. So important not to use
so
scale,
let's
I
just make a
think.
quick wall here. And let's say we wanted to add a window to this wall. In this case, we can use subtractive editing. So under
Yeah,
the CSG
right.
box, I'll add a new CSG. And this time, let's make it a cylinder. I'll position this where I want the window. And I'll make sure that it sticks out on both sides of the wall. Then to subtract this from our box, we simply change the operation from union to subtraction.
Cool. Right, let's see. So subtraction here, and there we go. We have a street. Yay! Clap, clap. Oh, I missed something actually. Yeah, as a rule of thumb, you don't use scaling apart from twin effects needs. Yeah, right. I think because I think I've seen Godot warning me a few times saying don't use scale on that, please. Don't bother with colors yet, just use easily once and get ready to texture your stuff. Yes, that's it, exactly. Got me. So that's going to be like floor, like no surprise. Now I don't know, let's actually imagine whatever kind of a building setting. I don't know. Let's create a new SG box, and this guy gonna be okay, building. Actually kind of small, this one. Like my floor is too small. Like I can probably reset. I could use a bigger street for real. I should bring in just you know, a capsule. Can I make a capsule? A cylinder. Height 2 meters. Let's go with 1.7 so that we can see what is the size of a character. Oh, okay, so if that's the character, we can probably go with a larger street. You go slightly on this side. Yeah. Here goes our street. So here, a little building, which is now super small. I want some color. A libido, super green building. Ah, camera is a little bit. Maybe character could be What do we have? Bluish. Fine. Anyway, the building. So yeah, like this much distance, and then just add a triangular box, and you got your Monopoly house. Oh, you mean on top of it? I'm more of a no. Whoops. Oh, I'm more of a block guy than a Monopoly house. I don't really like the little pointy thing on top. So it's actually not such much of a sidewalk. Could use more sidewalks. Like, now the street looks small. Now that's fine actually. That could be like a first building. No, I don't know. Uh, building a character. So make a second one. It's gonna be building B. This one's going to be color. A bit longer. Oh well, make it 42. What a 27 tall building mastery would look with. It's actually quite big, yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know, how many characters do we fit? I mean, we have to think about the actual floors that would be simpler. But also, we gotta think about the fact that I'm kind of going for a... Now, it's not going to be a third person. You'd make enough room between both buildings for your character to fit with some margin. So yeah, it definitely needs some alleys, but not all the time, I think. Either that or clip them together. Like, we have the magnet, right? But it's not like, how can I clip them? I mean, here they might be like too much. I don't know, maybe. Like I don't know any better right now. But here definitely, right? We make another one, which is like which has an alley between them. Mitoyen in English. Hugging. Oh no. Oh yeah, that could be like a... Hey, wait a second. What if I will have building... Building C? And now... I'm not gonna duplicate and mirror it. Looks like there isn't really a word for it. Maybe there isn't. We're gonna ask the almighty word reference. Tell us word reference. Yeah. Adjoining? Adjoining seems like very close. Erased? What the hell? Actually, let's make another road. So uh oh, wait a second. Oh no. No, no, no. Oopsie. Ah, what the? Oh, okay, I have to wrong. Okay, good. With adjoining, the idea of shed roof goes out the window, I feel. Shed roof. They have shed roof? I don't really know. Like, I don't feel that concerned about architecture vocabulary. You have building D. Oh. Okay, you go around here. Then that could work. Like I could use the exact same. Like no one's gonna notice. There we go. Building E. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's we're not so far to actually make a controllable character here. I kind of like the idea of them not directly touching. That's kind of weird. It's like who would like even be able to pass between us? Or maybe actually make this one have an alley so you can go behind them. And let's duplicate it one last time. Building G. Oh, here. So we'll have ourselves kind of a little bit of a city. I mean, so okay, there's one problem I have with this kind of game so far, which I don't really know how to solve. It is how do you handle large maps? You know, how do you get chunks to be separated in chunks and to load as chunks and not one entire map? That's what you're saying? IRL you either have an alley or no space at all. Just having a tiny and walkable path between the two would be crazy difficult to pull off when building the last building. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the kind of thing, you see it in a game, you're like, okay, I mean, I can work with it. But in real life, that wouldn't work, right? That's kind of a point was to fill the missing part here of the floor. So it's not really important if it goes the way. Okay, so now we basically need to make a camera. So I think in the controller section. Wait, playing the games?
Alright, so to play our game, we need to add a camera. So let's add a new node, camera, and select camera 3D. I'm gonna move it over so that it can see our level and rotate it down. Remember, we can always preview it by selecting this toggle. Cool, so the camera now has a view of our level. And if we now click to play or press F5, it will ask us to set a main scene. We'll hit select current, and our level looks not very exciting, even for a gray box. That's because by default, Godot uses a preview sun and environment in the scene view, but not when running the game. In fact, we can toggle the
True.
preview sun and environment using these buttons here. And if we expand, we can even adjust settings such as the sun's direction. And we can also add them to our game. So let's simply hit add sun to scene and also add environment to scene. As you can see, this creates two new nodes, a directional light, which is our sun, and a world environment. The sun we can now rotate to adjust where it's shining from, and the world environment we'll talk about later. And now if we play, we can see our level. But what fun is it if we can't move around it? And for this, we need some kind of character controller.
Okay,
But just like
very
in 2D,
nice. I actually almost missed that. So, world. Ah. So let's just add the sun and environment. All right, and this one we need to take up. And the direction, we could change the direction like this. Oh, and we kind. Okay, so let's actually have it. Okay, good. Okay, so now character. So I hope it's providing us the script because I'm not diving in my old stuff to see how I did that on Minecraft. Oh, wait a second. This spider web got rehabilitated. That's cool. A new occupant. So whatever.
a solid controller can actually get pretty complicated. And the needs of the controller entirely depends on the game that you're making. Is it first person or third person? Does the camera move freely or is it bound to a character? Do you need jumping, double jumps, wall jumps, stairs, slope, sprint, crouch, prone, swim, attack while swimming? It's too much. And this is not a video.
I think we just experienced what etc. is.
character controllers. Luckily, there are a lot of good resources about making different types of controllers available. So instead of spending the next hour programming a controller that might not be right for you anyway, I'll link to some that you can check out. I would recommend starting simple. You can always expand on your controller as the game progresses and you get more comfortable. I've also gone ahead and created a very simple character controller to use for prototyping first-person games. I call it the Proto Controller. You can download it for free. It's under the CC0 license, so you can use it for anything.
Ugh.
Basic movement with options for jumping, sprinting, and a free fly mode that I find super useful when testing. To import, simply take the Proto Controller.
Etc. is the true final boss of game dev. It's possible. All right, let's see what do we have in there. Oh my god. Oh my god. I think I'm let me think. What do we have in there? We have a capsule mesh. Camera, of course. We have a head. Okay, so let's grab this. Okay. Oh. Ta -ta -ta. So I think I'm gonna bring this in and I'm gonna recreate the C# script for it. Okay, so let's create a... Because, yeah, we're gonna dissect this a little bit. What's the word for it? Yeah, dissect. I was almost... Can I grab this from a zip line? Oh, I can. Yes, open anyway, and protocontroller.gd. So I guess we could just like bring that in the scene. That would be a quick way to actually see. That's a very good idea to make that, to be fair. All right. All right, can't sprint, can't freely, no. So honestly, can we run this now? Oopsie. I think we forgot something important. Enable the collision on this. All right. So, oh, you're for real? Wait a second. I need to improve the inputs a little bit, and also make my street slightly more. Why is the camera moving so slow? What happened? Seriously, what happened? No, actual input for, yeah. Where are the clients? Where are the shroomies? Oh, like. Uh, why is it so hard? And even the camera here is like. I'm trying the. Kind of cam behavior reminds me when I zoom too damn much in Blender. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we need to make a few inputs. So let's actually watch the script so that we get the inputs. Oh, this is so small. Input forward, input left. Uh, all right. Forward is C. Backward is S. Left is Q. Right is D. Or D is right as you prefer. And shift is. It's kind of okay. I got an idea to dodge lawsuits for copying all the drug stuff. Why I can't move? Why I can't move? Check if some action inputs haven't been created, disabled. I got an ID to judge us with drugs of other players sell Bibles instead. No scrap, nothing inclusive or religious texts are them. Okay, so um wait, what are you saying? Inputs print. Of course inputs print exists. What is this? Kinda confused, right? I'm gonna show you real quick something at first. Okay, no, let's ignore. Okay, so those who know me for a long time, I mean, I don't know how much I talked about this or not, but Sieves for the pastafarian client. So, okay, let's. So this right here, that's my favorite game ever. It is a TTRPG game, which is old as hell because it's older than me, as far as I know. Yes, it's actually older than me by 5 years. And recently in this game, I've been looking for this book. Alright. So this book is just an add-on for the base game. Alright. And the entire concept of this one is to focus on two main concepts, which are the blood sorcery and alchemy. So it kind of creates a scene of, you know, magic research slash alchemy slash drug dealing underground subculture. So it's kind of what I could lean toward exploring with my game. I mean, I've been thinking about that because right now I'm working on this a lot for my actual RPG sessions. Which means that eventually I could come up with an actual game where the goal is kind of, similar to what you would do in a drug dealer simulator or something, but instead of like dealing drugs, you would be like dealing formulas and stuff. And it's actually quite interesting because, there's the curfew thing that makes sense because since you would be playing a creature of the night, then you kind of have to play during the night, and during the day, there's the curfew, like. But yeah, so that's my way to go around uh, copying all the drug stuff. Drag, add-ins folder, it's no folder create manually, nya 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 nya. What about the controls? That I don't get. Check input mapping. Input.map. Oh, is it? No, it is underscore. Or is it sprinting? No, input underscore sprint. Oh, he's real. Okay, so we just need jump and we're ready to go. Good jump. There we go. Alright, let's explore Super cool city. There we go. So the buildings are kind of high. I mean, big. We absolutely can't see the street, so I messed this up. Let's fix that. 3D view. Yeah. And here comes the camera bugging again. I don't understand. What's happening? Why is the camera considering I zoomed in? Oh, okay, because of something like this, maybe. Okay, I got it now. Oh, that's so weird. This is too precise. Like, what is the precise way of dragging in Godot? Okay, I have another idea. I will get it. Alright. Now you two. Oh, just snap already. Ugh. Okay, we're almost good. Just need those two guys. Oh, there we go. No. Stop snapping. Oh my god, that's absolutely awful. Worst experience ever. Oh, there we go. Street. There we have a street. Damn. There we go. Here's the city. And go between buildings. Yeah. So, gray boxing this was actually way easier than I thought. Kinda cool. Hmm. Let me enjoy this a little bit. And then we move on to the next step. Nice. So what if we actually, just out of curiosity, make the interior of the building? Oh. So let's say this one, building A. We're gonna add a CSG box, be the door. Oh. So let's see, 2 meters. What's the size of a door? 2.2 meters. The camera is not really easy to work with. That's not gonna know. Okay. Let's actually make this a, well, before I actually make, no, let's remove that. Let's duplicate this guy like this. Let's make it inside of it. So this is gonna be the inside. Make it subtraction. And now we just want to get those. Okay, something in this line. Alright, so that's the inside. And now we can make a door. So same. Okay, that's a big door, but that's the point. Ah, okay. Right. So we should be able to go in that building. Uh, huh. Oh, however, like, please, for real. But there we have the inside. That's kind of nice. Okay, so how can we get the player to actually jump this? Those massive. It's not meant to be real. It's meant to be useful. There we go. Oh, this thing is absolutely atrocious, though. That building owner must have something to compensate. Yeah, very tall, so high. Oh, here's the sun. Nice. So, okay. I think I've enjoyed this door. Who's buzzing me? Important. Can't wait. Let's see what's next in there.
Folder and drag it into your add-ons folder in Godot. If you don't have an add-ons folder, you can simply go ahead and create a new folder, name it add-ons, and now we can drag our proto controller in there. And that's it. We can now go here, take the proto controller scene, and drag it into a gray box level. We can get rid of the camera we created before, and now when we play, we can look around, move using the arrow keys, and even jump using space. To get control of our mouse back, we hit escape. And if we go into the controller, we can see that it's super simple. Again, this is intended for easy prototyping, so I've kept it very bare bones. It has a character controller to drive movement, a mesh instance for temporary graphics, a collision shape, and under the head node is a camera 3D. The script references
Actually, I want to check the collision. You're off. Alright, have a good night. Happy whatever. We do have actually this capsule thing, but yeah, I don't really know how you can make it slide. Ah, I think I saw a video about that. And thanks for passing by the way, if you're still here. Um, yeah, how do you make a little steep, whatever? Eventually, it's actually possible to literally make the kind of steep collision object, so that the there's a yeah an angle, a collision shape. Because I don't think there's a way to where am I? Here. Character body 3D. Okay. I don't think in there's a property. Slide on ceiling. Wall minimum slide angle. Yeah. Objects with wall and slope detection. Move and slide. Move and collide. Which one are we using in this prototype? Move and collide, yes. Move toward. Move and slide. So maybe actually there's a way to choose like flow snap length. Is that a difference from 0 kept attached to slopes when snapping vector is determined by the given distance along the opposite direction of the up direction. Oh, okay. Block on the wall. Up direction. Vector pointing upward used to determine what is wall and what is a floor. Huh. Okay. So let me actually just be right back real quick. I'll be back like few seconds. Okay, there we are back. So let's continue the video a little bit.
So leave them be unless you want to modify the script, which if you want to is as simple as clicking the script button, and here is all the code. On the top node, we can choose which features we want to include, as well as adjust some speeds. I'll enable sprint and free fly. We just need to make sure that we also go under input actions and bind the appropriate keys. And this is exactly the same as 2D, so to add input, we go
Oh,
project settings, input map, and here we can add actions for all the things we want to do. I'll add some for the movement as well so that I can bind them to my own keys.
yeah, so I pretty much
And
ruined
now that I have these
it.
actions, I can bind keys to them. And to put this into our controller, we just take these names and put them into our input actions. And now if I play, I can move using the right keys, I can even sprint, and I can toggle into free fly mode, and of course toggle right back. Awesome.
Nice.
Now we can make levels and start testing them, so we're almost done with functionality. But I quickly want to touch on physics. 3D physics works much the same as 2D, and uses many of the same nodes. To create a static collider, we use a static body 3D node with a collision shape 3D as a child. Here we add a shape resource, size it to fit, and that's it. For physics simulated objects, we use rigid body 3D, again with collision shape. A quick thing to note is that Godot can be a little sensitive when it comes to scaling colliders. Scaling uniformly should be fine, but non-uniform scaling will generate a warning and probably lead to collision weirdness. Just a heads up. Now, one thing that I really recommend you do in most cases is to switch to the Jolt physics engine. Jolt is currently being implemented into the engine and is planned to replace the default Godot physics. It has many advantages, mainly in terms of better performance.
I wonder if that actually happened in the Godot 4.4. Like, no, not the changelogs. Yes, Jolt. Extension has been used. You wanted most. Wait. You have, okay, you have to enable this alternative to Godot physics in the project settings. Right, so let's actually go project setting, Jolt, physics actually, 3D, Jolt physics. Okay, cool. So thanks Bracky for that, I guess.
Simulation. For me, that's fixed much of the weird behavior that I sometimes run into with the default physics. It's also much better at scaling. Still, there are a few differences, so if you're unsure if Jolt is right for you, I'll have a link to where you can learn more and follow its progress. If you're using Godot 4.4 or later, Jolt is already part of the engine and just needs to be enabled by going project settings, scrolling down to physics 3D, and setting the physics engine to Jolt physics. It'll ask us to restart, and Jolt is now enabled. On previous versions, I'm building this in Godot 4.3, we first have to install it as an add-on. So we'll go to the asset library, we'll go online, search for Godot Jolt, we'll click and download, hit install, save and restart. And now we can enable it in the same place under project settings, 3D physics. We have to check advanced though, and under physics engine, we have Jolt physics. And again, we'll have to restart. And as you can see, we didn't have to change anything about our game. We can run it and move around just as before, but now all the physics nodes will use Jolt instead. So that's how we can start prototyping and building functionality for our 3D game. Because there's more to 3D than just making the game really, really ridiculously good looking. But that's fun too, and graphics is probably the biggest difference between 2D and 3D development. So welcome to Giraffics Park. When working with 3D graphics in Godot, I think most of the work fall under three main pillars that all contribute to the look of our game. I like to call them the 3Ds of 3D graphics. First we have the assets, the models with textures and materials that we place in our scene, the lighting, the lights that we set in our scene, and the environment, the rendering choices we make that affect our scene. If the look of a game isn't working, it's probably because one or more of these pillars, or Ds, isn't doing what it should. You could of course argue that shaders and VFX need their own pillars, but for the sake of keeping the scope of this video just somewhat reasonable, we'll skip those topics entirely. Plus, the 5Ds of 3D graphics just sound silly. So let's begin by having a look at importing and setting up 3D assets in Godot, and then we'll move on to lighting and environment. Now this is where I see a lot of people get
like importing those assets in the right way is definitely important.
There's often a lot of terminology.
Because I've been working a little bit with Blender, and I went in really clueless. So I just opened Blender, created a few models, wrote them to Godot, and I mean it worked, but that was very, very, very weird.
You need to know what kinds of assets and formats Godot expects so you can best tailor your workflow to fit. But even if you're not a 3D artist, it's important to have a solid understanding of what these terms mean, so you can implement assets created by others correctly in the engine. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, here's a 1-minute overview of all the things that make up a common 3D game asset. If you have experience creating 3D assets already, feel free to skip ahead exactly 1 minute. The shape of our
Oh,
model is called the mesh. It's the actual
right.
geometry or polygons that make up the object. We can easily assign a color to a mesh, but if we want to texture it by painting with multiple colors, we need to make a UV map. A UV map is a 2D representation of our mesh. Each point on the map refers to a point on the mesh. This is called unwrapping, and you can think of it like peeling an orange and then laying the peel out flat. Texturing is most commonly done by painting directly onto the mesh. The 3D program then uses the UV map to apply this to the texture. The result is a 2D image that can be overlaid onto the model. Next, we create materials to simulate the surface properties. Is our model rough like wood or smooth and shiny like metal? These properties might vary over the surface, so we create textures for them as well. Now, some assets, such as characters, need to bend and animate. This is done using a rig that defines the movable bones. Each bone is mapped to a specific part of the mesh so that when it moves, the mesh comes with it, which looks funny when it's done wrong. Finally, a game asset can have animation data, such as animations that move the bones of the character. Hopefully that gave you an idea of what makes up a common 3D game asset. Now let's look at how to get your game assets playing nice with Godot. Officially, Godot supports these model formats, with GLTF being the recommended. GLTF is an open standard that is rapidly increasing in popularity, and personally, I've had the best results with it. If I'm working with a model in another format, I will most often re-export to GLTF using Blender. It has solved many issues for me. GLTF comes in two versions, .gltf and .glb. GLB is the binary version. It's smaller and recommended for most cases. Godot also supports .blend files, which means if you're working in Blender, you can save your Blender file directly into your Godot project and it will import correctly. Behind the scenes, Godot is actually calling Blender to export to GLTF, which means that you have to have Blender installed for .blend files to work. Now, for this part, I'll be using some assets from the amazing K-Kid and Kenny. I've made a few tweaks and bundled together just the ones that I use if you want to try some of these things out on the exact same assets. Or if you want the full packs, definitely check out the original creators. Links for both in the description. So here I have a chest with some coins in it. The chest is made up of a GLTF file containing the model and a separate PNG texture. So let's create a models folder in Godot, select it and drag in our chest. From here we can drag it into our scene and voila! A chest. The texture isn't applied, but we'll fix that in a second. Now, a very important thing to note here is that next to the model is this scene icon. Often, a 3D asset will contain more than a single mesh. It might have an entire hierarchy of objects. To make this easy for us to manage, Godot treats a GLTF file like a Godot scene, and we can go ahead and open it like any other scene. It's going to tell us that this scene belongs to our GLTF file, so we can't modify it. That should be done with your modeling program, but we can open it and see what's in here by pressing open anyway. And here we can see all of the nodes that now make up this asset in Godot. Even if you import a GLTF file with just a single mesh in it, Godot will put it under a root node and create a scene for it. Now sometimes our assets might import without issue, but oftentimes we need to make adjustments. So let's select the GLTF and go to our import window. Here are a bunch of settings, most of which you can ignore for now, but one you might need right away is root scale. This allows us to adjust the scale of the imported model. So in this case, I think 1 is fine. While we can adjust many things in the import window, a lot of the really important import settings are actually under advanced. We can click the advanced button or simply double click the file, and this will open up the advanced import settings. Don't be scared by the fact that it's called advanced. This window simply gives you much more control over the different parts of your model. Here we can see the nodes making up the scene, and if we select one, we can set import settings for just that node. Say we didn't want to import the chest lid, well then we could simply hit skip import for just that node. And if we select the scene at the top, we get the standard import settings. We can also go under materials to see all of the materials that got imported. And the cool thing is that we can override any of the imported materials with our own. So let's create a material for this chest. I'll right click, create new, resource, and I'll search for standard material. Here's the standard material 3D. I'll name it matte chest. And now in the advanced import settings, we can select the default material, go under use external and enable that, and point to the material that we just created. Which means that if we re-import, we can now go to our material, and any changes we make here will apply to our chest. And to add our texture, we simply drag it into the albedo texture slot. And this is probably a good time to talk a bit about the standard material. The standard material is a very powerful and also flexible PBR material that can be used for anything from wood to metals, vegetation, and emissive surfaces. It can even act as a simple toon shader by changing the diffuse and specular modes to toon. The standard material really deserves an entire video in its own right, because it has so many properties that you can adjust to get the look you're going for. And of course, we can use textures or maps to set these as well. But to get started, here's a quick overview of the most common ones. Albedo, the base color of your material. If you use an
Oh
albedo
well, we're going to
textures,
go
this
through
will use both
everything.
the
Well,
R,
that's
B, and B
okay.
channels
I
to
don't
define
mind.
color. You can also use the alpha channel to define transparency if you mark the material as transparent. Metallic. How reflective is the surface? This is a value that goes from 0 to 1, where 1 is completely reflective. However, internally, even at 0, the material reflects a tiny bit, just like in real life. A metallic map requires only one channel. Note that once in a while you might run into something called a specular map. This is an
Because
alternative
the
to the
thing is
metallic
that right
inflow
now I'm
with
actually kind of, waiting for the Blender part of it. So, well, this is standard material. 3D he's going through. Scene workflow, what do we have in there?
Alright, so our test is imported and looking great, but how do we actually start using it in our game? Now, if we play the game, I can run right through it, so we'd at least want to add some kind of collision. And what I see a lot of people do is go here to Open Scene and choose New Inherited. This creates an inherited scene based on the GLTF file. What this means is that we can add new nodes to the scene and even override some properties, but we can't modify the original hierarchy, which turns yellow to indicate this. So we could add a node here, we can add a script, make some changes, and when we're satisfied, save it as a new scene that we can use in our game. And this works, but there are
Actually,
a
we
few
could try like something, because they're using a chest. Okay, what if we actually try to create an object that we will be able to import in this? There's something very simple, because let's be honest, I don't know. Okay, so I'm just gonna snap this. Let me move. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Now, how can I edit this object to make it look like a crate a little bit more? Okay, so I'm gonna edit this. My question is, how exactly can we, I mean, if I do, like this, how can I make this on all faces at the same? Does this work? Not really. Now, can I choose the value? Because here we have a value, but like here, right? Insert faces, thickness, 2.1. Okay. Now we do the same here. And do we do it on the bottom? No, it's not important. Okay, so we have all the faces here, and now this one I kind of want, to extrude it inside. So minus 0.05, something like this. Like, maybe there's a way to automate this, but I'm just too new to Blender to do that. Okay. Okay, so that's kind of a crate. So I guess I could go all the way to make the planks. Uh, Can I? What happens? Wait, what if I insert this face up to 0.9? Okay. Then I take those two edges. And I kind of like if I have a normal, like a local 0, 0, 0, like not really. Maybe normal 1. How can I make this thicker? I don't think it's gonna. Whoa, what's happening here? Because no, I'm not gonna look at this. I think it's going to be extruding somehow. But, you know. Wait, what if I extrude that from 0.05? And then I have it like those two. I extrude them like this. Like 0.05 again. Oh, actually 0.1. And I do the same thing opposite side. Oh wait. What if I select this face right here? But it's gone. I wanted to go both sides. But I could mirror it. Or I just completely ignore that and use my already existing crate, and I'm happy with that. That works as well. I'm gonna work with this so far. We don't need that to be. What if this is crate? This is crate mesh. Yup. So now I can kind of, you know, save this as not desktop, but yes, Windows C, Godot projects. Models. Let's go with that. Great. So let's see what Godot does with this object. Blender, yes, I guess. So we have to create. Yeah. So we're just gonna bring that in our scene. Let's see. World, create. And I don't know. Like, the question is, can I snap it, but to the nearest object? That's the thing. Is that possible? Oh, actually, do we have a precision? Go to 3D precision positioning. move 3D object with mouse and precision. Raycast into the scene instead of the... what? Trying to move 3D object. However, the accuracy is terrible. Maybe if we go in the editor shortcuts. Oh, shortcuts. So, precision? No? Maybe it doesn't exist. Common. Animation. Hi-fi. Grid map. Move. Doesn't seem like it. But the thing is, what is actually better between making the scene in Godot or making the scene in Blender? Because like if you make the scene in Blender, it kind of means that all the collision stuff has to be done on one big chunk, which is technically possible. Technically possible. But yeah, so here basically I have to get my object, let's see, create, open anyway. Can want to change the material. So the create materials. We create a new one. Let's actually create a new folder for the crate. Like, oh no. Models folder crate. You go here. New color, I don't know, something around purple. Create a new material resource. Maybe a standard material. And that's gonna be material crate. Let's not go too complicated, just brownish. Okay. So that's excellent, it's the same thing. So enable using a new material, models, grades, re-import. Okay, so it's brownish, well, kind of. So here I should actually be able to... Wait, couldn't save scene, likely dependencies, couldn't be satisfied. Oh, because I moved that. So delete. Oh wait, how is it? Interesting. I love how this positions itself. Nice. Pretty good. Very, very good. So right here we have the crate in the game. Requested file. Unknown blend. Oh, really? But yeah, we go through this crate. Why is the file format... Do it again, please? Requested file format unknown bland. Aren't you supposed to translate it into a GLTF? Because I mean, what is confusing is that you're like, oh, there's a problem and my crate's here. So I'm not sure what the problem is. So I think he's adding the collision at some point. So let's actually see.
Problems. First of all, using inherited scenes quickly gets very confusing. What's part
Animation player, force field, camera.
of the original asset and what's not? Also, it breaks very easily. If I make a change to the asset and it gets reimported, it can be hard to predict what happens to the inherited scene, and your changes might get removed. And doing it this way means that we are basing our game functionality on a graphics asset. This is generally a no-go, especially in more complicated scenarios. In fact, most of the time we're doing the exact opposite. We build functionality without fancy visuals, and then bring in those visuals as we'd like. So instead of using this to create an inherited scene, I recommend that you use nesting. With the nested approach, we create a new scene that we have full control over. So I'll make it a 3D scene, name it chest, and here we drag in our model. This allows us to freely create and configure gameplay nodes, and then import or swap out our graphics as we see fit. Then when we are happy with it,
Okay, so
we can save it and
we're gonna create a new scene for the crate. So here, new scene, 3D, scene name, crate. Okay. And in here we bring this crate.blend. Okay.
start using it in our game. This approach is also much more stable because any changes to the GLTF file won't affect our game logic. It will just update this one nested scene. Of course, it might happen that you need to reference.
Well, actually, let's do whatever. Let's remove this crate.blend and instead export GLTF. I think so. Crate GLB. Actually it ends up at GLB, doesn't matter. Okay. So let's do the same thing as we did like a few minutes ago. Bringing the new material. Import. Sure about it. But here, create GLB. Go. Great. In the well, this goes away. And we bring whatever the crate goes here. So technically I don't have the file format. Okay, good. I still like requested file format, and what are you harassing me with? Okay, you go. Ooh. All right, now you're gone. Good. Can we jump high enough? No, there's no collision. Okay, so we've got the crate. That's nice. Yeah, collision.
Thing inside the nested scene.
We probably just want to use a static body.
But if we need to, we can expose the child nodes of the scene by enabling editable children. If you find yourself doing this a lot, perhaps it would make more sense to split the asset into multiple GLTF files instead. Say for this chest here, if I needed to access the lid to open it, I could export the lid as a separate file. Just an option. Now there's actually a third way of structuring your scenes that I personally like for a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, it currently has a very big drawback. For this technique, we also use a separate scene, and again we drag in the model. And then we press make local. What this does is that it breaks the connection to the GLTF scene. This now gives us full control over the original asset, which means that we can pick and choose what we want and reorder the hierarchy. So it has some clear advantages. It's very flexible and makes it easy to separate function from visuals. But I mentioned there was a drawback. As of making this video, this is Godot 4.3, when we press make local, Godot will take all the mesh data in the GLTF and store it in the scene we created. That means that if we save the scene before pressing make local, and look at the size, it's very, very small. But if I now go in and press make local and save again, we can see that immediately the scene grows by a lot. Now this might be fine for very low poly models, but if the mesh is more complex, it will bloat your scenes a lot, which is not a good thing. Remember that at some point this scene needs to be loaded by your players, and if it's big and bulky, that is
okay. Collision is actually its
so
entire chapter.
To add collision to the chest and start using it, we would make a new scene. As the root node, I'll hit other.
Pretty sure we had a static body.
Because our chest isn't going to be moving, but we want it to be physics enabled. Let's hit create. Let's then drag in the chest model, and as you can see, the static body expects a collision shape. So we'll hit Control A, collision shape, and for the shape here, we'll choose a box shape 3D, and now we can use the gizmos to size it to fit. There we go. I'll name name the root node chest.
Oh, that's a way to go with.
And save it there.
That's a way to go with that. So here, where's our crate? Change type static body. And this, so we can add a custom one. Yeah, it's probably better to have a just a simple box. Like we don't necessarily need to have the. Wait, can you? This right here. Yeah, that's great. Guess we just have to check this. Good. Oh. Yes, it's well. So there we go. There's the crate. What does the world has to say about it? There we go. Bonk. Yes, bonk. That's perfect.
And now we can start using this chest in our game. And indeed, we can collide with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll run into a model where a simple collision shape doesn't quite fit. And most of the time, I would recommend that you just go with good enough, because the simple shapes are very much more performant than the alternative. For this barrel here, in most situations, a cylinder is probably fine. But if you do need something more detailed, there are two things you can do. One is that you can piece together multiple collision shapes to create the shape that you want. This is probably what I do most of the time. Or you can have Godot generate a collision shape based on the mesh. To do this, we'll enable editable children on the barrel model. We'll select the mesh we want, and on the mesh at the top, we'll create a collision shape. Here we'll choose sibling, and we can choose which method to use. I'll choose single convex and hit create. Now we can move the collision shape to be under the barrel, and disable editable children. I've made this barrel a rigid body to show this more clearly, so if we save it as a scene, and position it over our chest, when we play the game, we can see that indeed the collisions are now pretty accurate. I'll have a link to the docs where you can learn more about when it's best to use different types of colliders. It's also not uncommon to model your own colliders in a 3D program. A good way to do that is using suffixes. But first, I'll take everything that we've learned so far and use it to replace this boring looking gray box with some actual assets. I'll start with these building assets. Often, low poly models will be textured with just a few colors, and it's common for all the models to share the same texture, which is the case here. So I'll import the models and the dungeon albedo texture and create a standard material that all the models can share. Then I'll go through each of the models and point them to this external material. And now I'll create a scene and set up collision for each of them. As we talked about, this is a good example of a model that needs multiple collision shapes, so I can simply copy this one collision shape that I've created, rotate it, and move it over. And remember, whenever we duplicate a collision shape, we also have to go and right-click on the shape and click Make Unique. Otherwise, the changes that we make to the shape resource will affect both collision shapes. So Make Unique, and perfect. And now I can place them in the level. Sometimes the gray box can get a bit in the way, so I like to lock all of the CSG nodes, simply select them and hit this lock here, and I'll do the same for all of the child nodes. I'll also disable collision, so on the top node here, I'll remove use collision, and I'll assign a material that makes it a bit easier to see through it. So under geometry, material override, I will create a new standard material. And on this material, I will set transparency to alpha, and for the albedo, I'll set this to a nice magenta color, as well as turn down the alpha to make it transparent. Much better. So now that the gray box has been replaced by our custom.
Okay, so actually it's quite interesting to see what kind of. I mean, let's download get the assets. Because especially the floor, what do we have in there? No, I'm poor. Okay. 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 Because it could extract that. Extract all. There we go. Okay, so in there we have dungeon assets, building. Yeah. So can I drag and drop this in Blender? Like floor stone. For GLTF? Actually expected a new file, but that's okay. Open. I want to save that. Download. Raki. Dungeon assets building. Wait, what? Can I? Yeah, do I have to go with import? Import. Yes. So yeah, flow wood. Oh well, we are like exact same situation. Anyway, let's delete. Great. So that's just like yeah, a simple. I'm not so sure actually. Can we see the? All right. Looks like a plane, extruded plane. Hmm. And the question is, how do they like, um, you know, blend together? You check several of those. Yeah, duplicate it. How do I duplicate? I really can't duplicate this. Why? Oh, right here. Duplicate object. And the second one, I position it. I don't know. So I wanted to snap. And we kind of pray for it to connect properly. Mm. So this is assets to build something, right? But it's not necessarily what we want to make. Like maybe if you don't want to have reusable assets to be, you know, be used as kind of a tiling system, you can create custom assets. That that could be a possibility. And what's this? Oh, that's the material, is it? I break Blender right now? Kind of. I think it's loading the material. There's a possibility my computer is dying trying to stream and process Blender at the same time. But yeah, I kind of get the point. Okay, what about it? We go for another round. Oh, there it is. It's oddly reflective. But somehow the connection looks great. How come it's so nice? Wow. Quite surprising, to be honest. What happens if you duplicate it? Direction? Ah, it goes well. Oh yeah, cause like I guess the yeah, very smart. Okay, interesting. But what do we have then? Animated characters. Ooh.
Anyway. Now before we move on to lighting our level, so far we've only worked with hard
Oh yeah,
body
lightning.
models. What if we wanted to add animated characters? Take for example this skeleton.
Oh,
It's textured, rigged,
very
and
cool.
animated. And everything is packaged into the GLTF, so we can simply drag it into Godot. And if we double click it, we can see that inside is a skeleton 3D, which is the rig, a bunch of meshes, which are
Wait, how? Here we have a skeleton created. Mm. Okay, let's actually open a new file. Wait, ugh. New general, yes. Oh, I did. Did I override my crates? Oopsies. No? We're good? No, my crate's fine. I thought I had floor here. Anyway, wait. So let's delete everything and import the skeleton. Wow. What is that? So we have the rig. Okay. So that's very confusing. God. Okay, so here we have the texture. That's an easy understanding. What's this? I guess we have the animations in there. Okay. Except that I think I'm missing some views in Blender. Because, you know, wait, here's the entire skeleton probably. Fact. What's the material here? Wow. I don't even remember how you can see the animations. Because we had one animation. But as far as I know, you can kind of see the different. Oh, here, animation. Okay, and what do we do with that? Oh, that's so confusing. No, actually, no. No, because I'm still on the same. Yeah. Is that the kind of attack or what? What like this? Can I change the animation I'm viewing? Wow. Using Blender when you don't know how to use it is very confusing. Animation. Because we have a lot in there. Not editable name. Yes. Okay. This one, for example, working C. I'm not working, right? Are you working? No, you're not. Use item. Okay. Probably right here. So, very nice of you. I still don't know how I switch from one animation to another. Rig. Okay. Right here. Oh, so we're not in the previous one anymore. I'm not sure why. Poses mode. Pose mode. Edit mode. Oh, and here's the actual thing I know. Right. So that's the skeleton. Hmm. Yeah. I oh wait. Object mode, pose mode, edit mode. Okay, so here. Phone size. No. No. I'm actually quite curious to see there's something that looks like a heat map, sort of. Probably. Oh, actually, I should probably go through an entire character. Actually, what does he say about character?
Are controlled by the skeleton, and because the file has animations,
Like,
it's constants to play. But the file is split by
like,
some.
yeah, he's
Most of the
mostly
time, I
focusing
actually
on
prefer to
the
work with animations.
Godot part of it.
Skeleton is in, and this means that we can go to the animation that this animation player file. Say you want to have one for one
Uh-huh.
animations on rigs they weren't originally created for, such as when using third-party animations from a library like Mixamo. I'll have a link to where you can learn more about retargeting in the description. There are also a few tips that you can use to speed up your workflow. The first one is to use name suffixes in your 3D software that
Hmm.
Godot will then recognize when
Oh yeah.
importing. For example, if I don't want Godot to import the lid of this chest, I would simply use -noimp to tell Godot not to import that node.
Yeah, that's very
Using
important.
-col only will convert the mesh into a collision shape and put it under a static body node. This way you can model custom colliders in your 3D software and Godot will
Hmm.
treat them accordingly.
That's
You can
super
also add a
important.
-3D software.
Like you can create the collisions in Blender. That's very
And put it
cool.
under a static body node. This way you can model custom colliders in your 3D software and Godot will treat them accordingly.
Yeah.
You can also add a -loop suffix to an animation and Godot will automatically set it to loop on import. And if you find yourself repeating the same task over and over, Godot also allows you to automate the process using import scripts. These are a bit too advanced for this video, but really powerful. So I'll link to where you can read more about them, as well as naming suffixes in the description. So with some assets in our scene, we are ready for the next pillar, which is either lighting or
Hmm.
environment. But in my experience, it's often best to work on these two things at the same time, since they affect each other. Let's start with the world environment node. Remember earlier, we took the preview sun and environment that Godot uses for viewing in the editor and added it to our scene. So we should have this world environment node. If not, you can always go to the three dots at the top and hit add environment to scene. And the world environment node is one of the things that I really like about Godot. It puts all the common rendering properties for our scene in one place and in combination with our lighting, allows us to really set the mood of our game. Now, probably the most important setting in the environment node is the background.
Hmm.
This is because it not only defines what to display as a background for our scene, it also affects the ambient and reflected light that gets applied to our objects. This means that setting the background plays a huge role in lighting our scene, even if the background is never directly visible. There are many modes to choose from, but the most common are custom color and sky. Custom color allows you to choose a solid color as the background. If I'm making an indoor level and don't want outside lighting affecting the scene, I often begin by setting this to black. The sky mode is where the magic happens. By default, Godot will procedurally generate a sky background. This
Okay.
means that we can go in here and adjust
Practical.
settings to change the look of our sky.
Oh,
So I can go
handy
under
actually.
sky and change the top color. I can set the horizon color, as well as change the bottom color of the ground and the horizon color of the ground. As you can see, we can get pretty funky with it. And since the sky is procedural, it will also update to show the direction of our sun.
Mm.
Now, in our world environment, we can also change to a physical sky. If we select new physical sky material, this is also procedurally generated, but is adjusted
Actually, I'm
using
more
physics.
interested in the
With
lightning
the
right
background
now.
selected, it's time to start lighting our scene. But lighting is a huge topic, and one of the most important parts of making a 3D game really ridiculously good looking. So I've decided to do a brief introduction to lighting here, and then hopefully expand on it with a dedicated video in the future. That way we'll have ample time to dive into global illumination, reflections, emissive surfaces, and light baking. But for now, know that Godot has 3 different lights. 3 different lights? 3D lights that you can place in your scene. Directional light. This illuminates your entire scene from a certain direction. It's most commonly used as a sun or a moon. Omnilight. This emits light from a point out in a radius. It acts kind of like a standard light bulb. And spotlight. This emits light like a flashlight, so from a point out in a cone. And all of these inherit from Light 3D, so you can adjust color, energy, and so on. A fairly common way to light a scene is to start with a directional light and then place omni and spotlights based on the physical lights in your scene. These can be especially great for introducing a pop of color to your game and avoiding bland areas where your directional light doesn't reach. So let me show you how to go about doing that. So let's start by adjusting our directional light. This is the main point of light in our scene, so it's the most important one to get right. I'll enable the ceiling here so we can see which shadows are being cast. And then maybe I'll just adjust the angle a tiny bit. Let me fly into the scene here so we can see it more clearly. And if we go under light, we can set the color to something a tiny bit more warm. This is very subtle, but I'll make it slightly yellow. You can also play with the intensity, but I think 1 is fine for now. I'll also go into the world environment, and under ambient light, I'll decrease the sky contribution a tiny bit. This way, less light is spilling from our sky onto our scene, which just darkens the shadows a bit, which should look better once we get inside. And talking about inside, it's time to add some light to the torches. So I'll select this one, hit Ctrl A, search for OmniLight 3D, and so it will add our OmniLight as a child of the torch. I'll move it out and up a bit. And the first thing that I'll do is definitely change the color of this to something more fire-like. So under light, I will change the color to a nice orange. Something like that. I'll also increase the energy to 2. And currently this room could really do with some shadows. So I'm gonna go ahead and enable shadows on this OmniLight. This is definitely something that you want to do sparingly, since having many lights casting shadows can quickly get expensive, but I think in this case it's worth it. I'm gonna make the color a
That's
tiny bit
interesting.
less yellow, and I'm gonna
Usually
go
that's the
to
kind
the
of thing I
top here
disable
under
in
Omni
games,
and change the
because I
range
don't
to say
necessarily care about
50,
that,
so it
but
really fills out the room. Now, since our
depending on the
torch
type of
is set
game,
up
that
as
can be
a
interesting.
scene, one of the really cool things is that we can simply add this light to the scene. So I'm going to cut it here, right click, cut to remove and copy it. Then I'm going to go into the torch scene and paste it here instead. And now if I save this scene, all torches in our main scene are going to update automatically. And voila, we have light all over.
Indeed, very nice.
I will also go into my world.
So, there are actually a lot of important things to see in this video still. But yeah, it's been 2 hours, and right now I'm kind of in a position where I need to let the information I got from this to rest a little bit and see how I can. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. How was he moving? That's the thing. Who's moving? Like flying freely in this? Actually, shortcut maybe. Editor. Where would that be? Oh, grid map. Hit move. Maybe something like a camera or something. 3D. Script text editor. Oh, spatial editor. Let's see. We have here. Free look. Oh, is it because it's QWERTY? No, I don't think so. I'll go through look. Okay, so oh right, that's great. So that is Shift F. Okay, so if you guys want Shift F, that's really great. And we can change the speed as well. Wow. Okay, this is absolutely brilliant. Okay, great. So yeah, I think that's all we're gonna be doing for this one. Stream. And eventually I will try to actually get new. I mean, I will be working on this off camera definitely and see what we can do for next time. Like having a few interaction with objects that can be interesting. And right, just like with the gray boxing, it's probably possible to make something, you know, quite good already. Alright, so that's all for me today. Hope that was interesting for you guys to follow as well, because yeah, there's just so much to unpack for 3D. And yeah, feel free to share your tips as well. That's always nice. You can, like, if you have good materials, like this tutorial we're watching right now, I think it's a really good one. If you have like good tutorials that you made or that you followed, you can drop on our Discord to share the links. That's like so much appreciated. You have no idea. And yeah, so I'm gonna leave you here by disappearing from the camera. And yeah, you guys take care, you guys have fun, and I'll see you in another video, another stream. That's you.